Right now, I want to bring in Congressman French Hill. He's a Republican from Arkansas who is also the chair of the House Financial Services Committee. His son, Payne Hill, is also with us today. And, let's set this up a little bit. French, I didn't realize until you were on set with us maybe a month or two ago that you've been coming to the Berkshire meetings for how many years?
Since the early 90s. Warren Buffett's been a hero of mine since I was in college. And the Super Investor article he wrote back in 1984 was what got me so interested in value investing and also following his work. And then when I was at the Treasury Department, I was there for the Solomon Brothers escapade. And when I got out of government in 1993 and went back to the private sector in investment management, it was Warren Buffett who was, my role model, a man I've never personally met, but I've admired all these years. And he always loved tap dancing to work. Well, now he's tap dancing out of work. And what a day. What a happy day. And the board and Greg and Warren have done a magnificent job over the last decade preparing shareholders for today. Now, and it's great to have this young investor.
Thanks for having us.
And Payne, you've come to this meeting before with your father. I don't think you come every year. When was the last time you were here?
So last time we were here was 11 years ago. And it's safe to say that's kind of where I caught the investing bug, watching the markets. I've been chatting about Apple stock with my dad since I was 10 years old. So I think, that's kind of where I started thinking about it, reading about Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, that kind of thing. And I even did a 6th grade PowerPoint project on Warren Buffett. I need to dig it up. I think it's in like some old hard drive. But so huge fan.
And it's influenced your life, too. You work at a consulting firm in Washington at this point?
Yes, I work at a company called FTI Consulting.
Yeah.
So it's been a great experience living in D.C. I'm really humbled and privileged to be able to watch him do what he does. But, so it's a great...
French, let's talk a little bit about Warren said that was kind of directed at Washington. There were a lot of kind of discussions around the edges on this. One would be his thoughts on the trade deficit and tariffs. Another would be his thoughts on DOGE and bloat in the government bureaucracy. He came back at us a lot of ways, even with the idea of the U.S. healthcare system not being able to fix that, saying government would have to be the one who did that. What did you, as a sitting congressman, kind of take away from all of those thoughts?
Well, I took away his thoughts. He introduced the topic by talking about his 2003 balanced trade piece he did on import certificates and how Charlie thought it was a Rube Goldberg scheme of an idea. But his idea was that balanced trade over the years is a good thing. But as the reserve currency and the biggest economy in the world, we're not going to have balanced trade with every country. It's not possible. We're importing so much. But I thought his idea that balanced trade was a theme was important. But he argued that putting punitive tariffs on people probably is not the way to do it, that using the carrot rather than a full stick. And in my 2 years of doing it during the Bush 41 administration, it was the threat of the stick, 301 sanctions on semiconductors in the 1980s, on Japanese auto imports in the 1980s, that led us to open up the market and create what I think is a pretty substantial trade partnership between Japan and the United States here 30 years later. And if you talk to the Treasury Secretary, the Commerce Secretary, that is the ultimate goal. More fair trade, balanced where it can be balanced, and then in their view, try to bring some strategic national security manufacturing back to the U.S. Not a bad goal, but not something that's going to happen overnight. And the pandemic taught us that we need to have more resilient supply chains. And people are working on it. You see reductions in dependence on one country or one source, there's no doubt. But it's going to take time.
Is that what we're getting right now, though, the threat of the stick, or is it the actual stick? I know we're in this weird 90-day period where tariffs are on hold for the most part.
I think it's created a lot of market uncertainty, and my hope is that the applying of the stick will lead to negotiations that will ultimately be more of a carrot, and recognize that we have to have some distinctions here between a big complex situation like China versus a country that we have excellent allied terms with, Korea or Japan or the European Union, and have a little bit more discretion there. But I'm hopeful that we can do it and do it soon, because I think the market and the uncertainty has not been good for the economy.
It's also, of course, interesting the way Warren frames things, and he likes to do this, right, by just sort of panning out and saying, let's appreciate what the U.S. has built.
Right.
and the fact that, as he said, we've won. In other words, we're kind of claiming to be taken advantage of by countries whose economies we wouldn't trade for ours.
Right. Exactly. And he talked about the lottery, the global lottery, where Payne Hill's the luckiest kid in America because he got born
I'd always
here.
say to him, I want to win the lottery one day, Dad. He's like, you already have. You were born in the United States. I know Mr. Buffett commented on that a lot.
100%.
So we were looking at each other.
But it was, it is still something where you want to have it as balanced as you can make it. And if you do have dumping, my argument's always been if you believe that people are dumping product into the North American trade arena, Mexico, Canada, the U.S., Mexico and Canada, as our partners, can stop that. Yeah. We can say we don't want dumped steel entering the Mexican borders that goes into a U.S. product. So my advice is we should have Trade Promotion Authority. Joe Biden left a mess on trade. He allowed Trade Promotion Authority to expire in the Congress in 2021, and we didn't initiate any new trade agreements under Joe Biden, and we didn't enforce the ones that even President Trump
I mean, that's a lot of Chinese goods that are coming through Mexico and getting dumped on us.
And so I get the point, but I would use the USMCA's 5-year review as a chance to strengthen that, and I think that's the way to have Canada and Mexico on our side to curtail dump products.